I can't believe we're actually going to talk about this here. I will put my own personal demise aside. I bought AMC stock like right when the pandemic started at $2. I sold it at $9. It's now at 58. Carol Roth is here, author of The War on Small Business, How the Government Used the Pandemic to Crush the Backbone of America. Carol, how are you today?
Fantastic, and you didn't have those, as they call them, diamond hands, Mike. That's the people who are what they call hodling. Got to hodl the stock.
I know. I didn't go anywhere near the moon on AMC. I so crapped out, and it's my own fault. So what do we do with this, Carol? Because this is a big question here. Like, how much of this, what do we do if we live in a world where our stock market is based not off of like the fundamentals of a company, but instead turns into like this video game based off of memes and animal spirits and just how we're feeling today and Saturday Night Live and Elon Musk's latest tweets? What do we do with that?
Yeah, so I think there are two pieces of it. One is that unfortunately, a lot of people in the media have dismissed this as sort of a joke, and people are making jokes on the internet, and those become memes. And that's not at all what's happening. This is, as some of the folks, and some of them call themselves the ape army, and some of them are just online retail investors. But this is really a digital Occupy Wall Street 2.0. We have a lot of people, whether it's retail investors, people on Main Street, small businesses who feel disenfranchised, and they feel that everything from the market to the economy is rigged against them. So they're going out and they're sussing out places where they feel like there has been unfairness. And if you come up to something like AMC, this is a beloved brand. They feel like it was unfairly attacked. Same thing with GameStop. And in some cases, they feel like there are pseudo-legal practices called naked shorting. Naked shorting is itself illegal. Market makers have a loophole to do it, where you can borrow a share and have that same share borrowed many, many times to sell it. So you're actually selling something that not only you don't own and you don't allocate it. And they feel like this is unfair, not only to these companies, not giving them a fair chance to be able to raise money in the markets, but also not fair to the overall market and retail investors. So it's really broader like that. That being said, you want to talk about what's really inflating and rigging the market. It's not the Elon Musk, it's the Federal Reserve and the $7.9 trillion that they have sitting on their balance sheet that they have pumped into the market to completely dislocate risk. So that's the bigger concern, is what's going on with the government, with their cronies, that's moved us from free market capitalism to, like you said, this kind of like insane cronyism where like we can't even rely on valuation anymore.
Yeah, no. So that's my first question is like, well, you know, it used to be based off of these and it's like, was it really ever?
It was.
Especially with the Fed in the game.
I'm a recovering investment banker, so I know this. I've built models. I used to go into the market and you'd be able to say, this amount times cash flow or this times revenue. And over, really the past decade and a half, particularly on the outside of the Great Recession, as you've had the Fed come into the market, it's gotten completely blown out to the point where, it's hard to even give financial advice.
Is this good where we're at right now? Like the ape army and all the rest with the diamond hands into the moon and doing all this stuff on Reddit and stuff. Is there a good end to this, or does it end in ultimate demise?
Well, I think it's good that we have people who are pushing back, and they're pushing back in a more specific and intentional way. I think when we had the last Great Recession, there was a lot of truth to the issues that people had, but it was done in a way that was such a mess that, it's hard to know what it was that people were talking about. But at this point, it's imperative that we have all of these individuals, that we have all of the small businesses stand up and say things like rein in the Fed, bring more transparency to the markets, stop telling big businesses that they're essential and small businesses they're not essential. Because there's more of us than there are politicians. And if we do it, we're just going to see this continued consolidation of power. I mean, last year, Mike, 7 tech companies gained $3.4 trillion in value, while hundreds of thousands of small businesses closed, millions more were hurt, people were out of work. That is a major disconnect, and that was driven by the Fed and the government.
Has there ever been a greater, if you will, transfer of wealth, intentional destruction of the lower and middle class and growth of the upper class than this in world history?
No, this is historic. And if you look at the amount that has been transferred, I mean, it's bigger than the output of many countries, right? We're talking trillions of dollars. And like you said, it's very much intentional. When COVID first happened, what was the first thing that happened? They propped up the stock market. They didn't reach out to the backbone of the economy. That tells you all you need to know.
Got this number here, 37.5% of small businesses in the U.S. have been lost due to lockdowns and other interventions. What's that number based off of? And like, that's a ridiculous number. A third of small businesses shut down. Is that how I'm interpreting that?
So, yeah, so I've seen this chart go around, and I think, the reality before COVID, there was 30.2 million small businesses and 6 million of those had employees. I don't believe that 10 million or so small businesses have been shut down permanently, probably hurt, but that could be just an employer-based number. So it could be maybe 2 million or something, which again is insane. If you think about, there's only about 10,000 big businesses. So one of the challenges when we come to talk about small businesses, because there's so many of them and they're so dispersed geographically and by industry, a lot of people don't have the expertise. So they take like a slice of them and they give these numbers. But I do think that it makes a point, whether it's consumer-facing businesses that have storefronts, employer-based businesses, any big swath of that is unacceptable, especially when it was done by government mandate. They said, you're not essential, you don't have the political clout, but if you do, we're going to make sure you're taken care of. And government picking winners and losers is always going to end up in the small guy losing.
I'm grateful you're putting a spotlight on this because I don't think the full story's been told yet. The war on small businesses, how the government used the pandemic to crush the backbone of America. Carol Roth.
Wow, that was deep and insightful. I want more of that. Like, subscribe, get more.